Hey guys, it's Master Sparks, and today I am gonna try doing a live stream. I don't know if anybody's gonna tune in because, like every single time that I ever tried doing a live stream, it is extremely late at night for most of the world, but it is not that late. It's just evening time here. So, in today's live stream, I'm going to do a little bit of a story time. So if any of you guys join this live stream, feel free to ask questions or chime in or just say hi at any point during the stream. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about why I dropped out of college, and I'm going to give you guys a story time about that. And the title is not clickbait. She told me to be more like Justin Bieber. Who it was that said that? I'll get into that. But I just got back from yoga at the pier. It was amazing. I went with my friend MJ from work. And yeah, so if you live in North Vancouver, there is going to be free yoga at the pier at the Key. And that is going to be every Wednesday night for the rest of the summer, I believe. And it is absolutely free, and it's being hosted by Lululemon. So if you like yoga, if you want to check that out, I will probably be there every single Wednesday that I can hit it up. So if you see me there, don't be shy to say hello if you're from North Van and you want to hit that up. So today's video, like I said, is going to be talking about why I dropped out of college. And yeah, let's hop right into that. So my first year of college, I went to performing arts preparation. It was basically a prep school that was preparing me for a career in the performing arts. This was my first year of college. This was my first time leaving the house, like to live on my own. And I basically moved to Toronto as soon as I left high school. Like there was like 2 months off of high school, and then I went straight to Toronto to start my performing arts school. And I went to Sheridan for 1 year. It was absolutely amazing. Then I ended up being on bed rest for my heart, and I missed some of my college auditions, so I ended up going to St. Lawrence College. It ended up being an amazing experience at St. Lawrence College, but it wasn't my number one pick university. But I can talk about that story time and talk about my heart condition and whatever in a different story. But today we're just going to talk about my experience at St. Lawrence College and why I dropped out of college. And yeah, so I started at St. Lawrence College. I auditioned for it the spring before. I was now going to go to this amazing college and start my dream of studying musical theater, dancing and singing and acting every single day, and living in this new townhouse with some of my best friends that I met the year before who love to do all of the exact same things as I do. And what could go wrong, right? It's going to be a dream. So I start school. And first things first, we are in a tiny little town, and it's not really that I feel homesick, but this town called Brockville, where my college was, only had like 18,000 people. So it was like a really, really, really tiny town. And I always felt like so secluded. And at that time, I was like 20 years old. I just wanted to start dating and making new friends and all of this stuff, living the most exciting point of my life, or what should be the most exciting years of my life. And I felt like I couldn't do that. So I felt like trapped in Brockville, and like, oh, Toronto's only a couple hours away, and like New York is only a couple hours away, and all these places where I wanted to be, but I was stuck in Brockville. And so, for one, I started to quickly develop this feeling of like, oh my God, I'm trapped in this small town forever. Like, I just spent my entire life living in a small town. Like, I moved all the way across Canada to Ontario to escape a small town. Like, what am I doing? And so that started to kick in. And then with school, the program that I was in is like the most intense program ever. Like, people probably think it's hard to go to school to become a doctor, and I'm sure it is, but try going to school for musical theater. Like, you literally have school like 7 days a week, definitely full five, and if you're not there 5 days a week, you are definitely going to be rehearsing on Saturday, rehearsing on Sunday. You're going to be training and working on all of your stuff all weekend long. Like, there's no time to have a job, and you're going to be rehearsing all night long after you go to school and train all day long when you're in musical theater school. So I'm sure that's not like every single school. Hi, the one fangirl about everything. Welcome to a live feed. You're the first person to say hello, so welcome, and I'm super excited to have you here. I'm just telling my story about why I dropped out of college. So yeah, so musical theater school, it was like 7 days a week, like 12-hour days, long, grueling days. And it's amazing because you're doing what you love, but like you're always so exhausted and burnt out because you're going like 7 days a week nonstop. And so I go through my first year. If you are a boy and you are in your first year at this college, you got to take part in like the big main stage shows. Now, for me, I just kind of jumped into performing. I was always like an academic student. I was always a mathlete, kind of like nerd, science student. I was always like excelling in that kind of stuff, and I just kept my nose to the books. But then by like 18, I was like, I'm gonna dive into all of this stuff that I've always wanted to do but never tried. And so I just like got into an acting school by like working really, really hard for 1 year at a prep school, but I had no like experience to back any of this. And then being a boy, because they were short on boys, they just kind of tossed us right into the main shows. And so my first big show was White Christmas, and I remember being so stressed out trying to learn all of the dances and feeling all of this pressure because all of the girls were like hating on all the guys because they got to be in the shows in first year, and all the girls wanted to be in the shows, so it wasn't fair to them. But then all of us like were really like appreciative of the opportunity to get to be in a show, but we were under so much pressure because we were already doing our first year show, and we were doing our full course load, and we had to do a full main stage show and rehearse that all semester long on top of all of that. So it was absolutely crazy if you were a boy at that college in your first year. So I did that, and then I did another show. They pulled me in for White Christmas in that was like our Christmas show, and it was absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen White Christmas, you should at least watch the movie. Like, that's my favorite. I love it so much. It's so cute. I just love classic like musical theater and classic Christmas kind of stories, traditional stuff. Love it. So yeah, did that, and then I did Fiddler on the Roof. And I remember being so depressed every single day at home. I was like studying what I wanted to be doing finally. Like my entire life I dreamed of dancing, and I finally had the opportunity. I got to dance. I was so excited about that. Like, don't get me wrong, I was so passionate to have like a vocal teacher, a vocal coach, my own private vocal coach for the first time in my life, and to have dance teachers that were pushing me so hard and believed that even starting at like 19 years old that I could achieve anything that I wanted to. And like they instilled that confidence in me, and they just like really wanted me to believe that, and I could not believe that for the life of me. Like my confidence was so bad, and I think this is probably like the worst my confidence ever was in my life was while I was at musical theater school, because not only was it all brand new to me, but I was putting all of this pressure for me to be at the same level as like all of the other students that had been performing for like 18 years, some of them, or like training and dancing, and like there was multiple levels for our dance training at school, and like I was starting in level 1 and I'd never danced before in my life, and I'm just like, oh no, all these other students are like in level 4, and I'm just comparing myself to them, and I'm like, how am I ever going to get a job, and how am I ever going to compete at these auditions when all these other people have like 15 years of experience on me? And so I worked so hard, but in the back of my mind there was always just like this nagging insecurity that was like, you can't do this, like why are you even trying? Like, you're never going to be as good of a singer, you're never going to be as good of a dancer. And so I always had that pressure. And I also, at the same time, was starting to have the biggest crush in the entire world on this boy at school who, like, expressed all of this romantic interest in me, but then decided that he was actually straight and that he was just confused for a while. And so he like basically took back all of that. So I was extremely confused and extremely heartbroken and battling with all of these confidence issues. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't do this. And then summer rolls around and I was like, okay, well, you're gonna have to come back next year and you're just gonna have to do better. And so I try and deal with all of this. I go back home. I worked my butt off all summer long, working like a hard manual labor job, trying to save up money for my second year of college. And then I'm like so excited to go back to school and see all of my friends and whatnot. But second year of college is where everything just falls apart. So I come back to my second year of college, and I see this boy that I thought that I was over, that we still talked all summer long, because the hard part is that we were like best friends, and we were best friends, and he was like my biggest crush slash I was like in love with him basically at the time. And so I went through all of that. We had this summer apart and I thought it would be fine. And then I came back and it was not fine. And me and my other best friend who I was living with were having all of this drama because I wasn't telling anybody what was going on between me and this boy, and I was keeping it all a secret, and I was keeping it all inside. And my best friend always felt like I was just like distancing myself from her, which I was. And so she was always bitter and felt like I didn't love her and felt like I didn't like appreciate her and all of this stuff that wasn't true, but she was getting that message because I wasn't confident enough to explain like what was going on with this guy, and because he was straight and it was like a secret, I didn't want to like throw him under the bus basically. So all that is going on, and meanwhile my confidence is like destroyed. I'm heartbroken. All of this at the same time. And so I started to go to a psychiatrist and a doctor at this point, and I was like, oh my god, my anxiety was so bad. It's the other thing, my anxiety was at the worst point in my life at this point. I didn't really notice I had anxiety until like maybe my first year of musical theater school, so second year of college. And I'd always felt like nervous, and I was always like really, really a perfectionist about absolutely everything. Sorry, somebody says, I was so depressed right before college, and instead of going to college, I got liposuction. Well, how did getting liposuction help for you? Yeah, I feel like my life all like went to a mess right before college, and I ended up running away from home the summer right before college because I couldn't handle it anymore, and I ended up having to like borrow money from a friend's parent to get to college, and it was just like everything went down the summer before college. But I'll make another video to talk about that too. But yeah, so we're in second year of college. It's the first semester. They say everybody gets the second year blues, which definitely rung true to me. And I was like so insecure, like I'm never going to be able to compete with people outside of this school. I'm never going to be able to get an actual musical theater job. I'm never going to achieve my dreams of being on Broadway or anything that I was planning at the time. And I was just like so caught up in that whole world. And so I started seeing a psychiatrist, and my anxiety was so bad that I couldn't even like breathe in some classes. I was having panic attack every single time I had my voice and speech class where we had to like lay down and do breathing exercises and relax, and I just couldn't relax. And I ended up like developing an addiction eating icebreakers mints as like a coping mechanism because I would never eat. I was literally just drinking water all the time because I was so like wound up and anxious that I had no appetite and I couldn't even force myself to eat. I would go home every day after like 12 hours of training and I would like cook my entire dinner and I just couldn't bring myself to eat it. And so at this point I was like, okay, I need to see a psychiatrist. I can't do this anymore. I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm like freaking out every day. I'm having panic attacks before every single like masterclass, anytime I have to do anything live. And at this point in second year, we had our first auditions for our like main stage shows that we were allowed to actually audition for. Because in first year, the boys had to do the shows anyways, but you didn't get to audition. You were just kind of put wherever they put you. But then in second year, you got to audition. So I auditioned and it was for Grease. And I ended up getting my first like really big major role. And it wasn't like the lead role, but this was a huge role in Grease. I was playing Duty, I was one of the T-Birds, I had a solo, and I was the only person that they didn't double cast, because all the other roles, there was like two roles. Like there was two Dannys, like Corey would go on one night as Danny, and then Michael would go on the next night as Danny, and my role wasn't double casted, and I don't think that there was another boy available that had that high of a vocal range, because Duty is like the youngest boy of the group and I had one of the highest voices in my year and there wasn't very many boys to pick from, and so I had to play Duty. And I remember having like a panic attack every single day. It was so bad. Like the rehearsal process, I was so insecure. I was afraid to perform in front of everybody, even like in a group, let alone like on my own for a solo. And they were trying to get me to be like so confident and like exude all of this star quality to be Duty, because Duty comes on and he sings the song called Those Magic Changes, and he goes from like being this like dorky kind of like nerdy boy to like being like this rock star in the middle of the song. And so I basically had to be able to come on stage and be like this dorky nerd, which I could easily do because I'm a dork nerd. But then to go on and just be like this over the top like rock star and exude like such extreme confidence when I was like the most insecure of my life, and I was like, oh my god, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. But of course I didn't have a double, and I literally was like thinking about dropping out of school every day, and I was just so like freaked out about it, and I was like, I can't do this, I can't do this, but I can't let everybody down. And I was like, had all this pressure. I was like, I don't have a double, there's nobody to replace me, somebody would have to learn the entire role like overnight. And I at this point started taking a new medication to deal with my depression and for my anxiety, and I'd never been on any kind of medication before, and they gave me this medication called Paxil. And I didn't know at the time, but Paxil is actually like a super outdated medication that they used to prescribe in like the 80s, and I was having all of these extreme side effects for it, and it was not helping me at all, but it was just making me feel like a zombie then at this point. And then I would like stay up all night, like literally laying in bed with my eyes like open staring at the roof because I just could not sleep. And this medication was not like helping me sleep, it was taking away all of the rest of my appetite, so I was not eating like at all, and then it was not making my anxiety better at all. So this medication was just making everything worse, and I started taking this like a few weeks before opening night for Grease. And so, yeah, I'm taking this medication that's making everything worse, and then I am freaking out every single day, and my confidence is just dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And then in the rehearsal hall, everybody's like, why can't you do this? Like, they're trying not to, like, break me down, but, like, my vocal director and the director and the choreographer are like, oh my god, we need you to, like, step up your game. We need you to be extremely confident. We need you to, like, come on here as Duty and, like, rock that stage. And my dance teacher, her name was Janet Jackson, believe it or not, and her husband, believe it or not, his name was Michael Jackson. But funny, weird coincidence. But Janet Jackson was like, you need to be more like Justin Bieber. And I was like, what the fuck does she mean by that? And I literally like remember being like, what school am I in? What am I doing with my life that I can't do this show? And they are telling me to be more like Justin Bieber. Like, of all things, I do not know how to be more like Justin Bieber. Hey bro, been a minute, love the videos, they support you 100%. Aw, thank you, buddy. Nice to see you back on my videos. I love when I do a live stream because it's like all of the people that I haven't seen in a long time tend to check in, so that's super cool. And thank you for your support. But yeah, my dance teacher and choreographer's like, be more like Justin Bieber. You know how Justin Bieber like goes on stage and all the girls just start screaming and all of these 12-year-olds like want to kiss him and make his babies. And I was like, what? And so in hindsight, basically she was saying like she wants me to go on stage and like have this star quality that Justin Bieber has, and to like be able to go on stage and like make everybody like scream and excited. And I'm like, but I'm not a celebrity, I'm not a giant star, I don't know what Justin Bieber does that he goes on stage, like he has like 1 billion fans, that's why everybody starts screaming. But like she couldn't communicate, and I definitely wasn't understanding that she meant like I just need to go on stage, commit to it, be so confident, be so over the top, and just like exude that kind of like celebrity star quality that a star needs to have. But at that time I was like, girl, I do not have that. I have a good and fresh anxiety disorder and lots of extra panic and insecurity to go around for all of us. So needless to say, I panic, I'm a mess every single night. And then opening night comes around, I end up going on for Duty, and I just like somehow like got in the zone. It was the best that I'd ever performed, it's the best that I'd ever felt on stage. And it was kind of in that moment that I was like, wow, I really can do this. I just spent like the last 2 years telling myself that there's no freaking way that I could ever do this, and now I'm on stage performing a giant leading role, performing a solo that I thought that I couldn't do ever, because like every rehearsal I was like getting choked up because I was so nervous and I couldn't hit any of the notes. And then I would go home or practice in my vocal lesson with my vocal coach and I'd be able to sing it perfectly, and I was like getting so frustrated that I couldn't do it. So I was like, I'm never gonna be able to do it. And so I went on stage. It was absolutely perfect. I exuded the Justin Bieber quality that Janet wanted. But for me, I think that I like to think of it as like Elvis, as me turning from like this dorky duty character to like transforming into Elvis for a few minutes and then coming off stage. And that's kind of what helped me get over my stage fright and to just be like, no, you're not Jordan right now. You are Elvis singing, "What's that playing on the radio? Why do I start swaying to and fro?" Anyways, I thought when she was saying Justin Bieber that she was referring to like how I was singing, that she wanted me to be singing like that. And I was like, but this is Grease. I didn't get it. But anyways, so I tried to be Elvis basically. I sang it like that. I completed the show. I did the best that I could possibly do. I've never watched the recording, but like it felt great and it felt like I did everything fine. But as soon as I finished that show, I was like, this is the end. I am literally quitting school. I cannot do this one more day. Even though like that role ended up going fine, like I still had all this anxiety to work with. I still needed to put my mental health first. I was still like being so triggered by seeing this guy that I'm in love with every single day at school and having all of this tension between my roommate and best friend who I lived with, and just most of it was just like this insecurity of being like, do I really want to do this? And while I was in that semester of school, I also found Dance Moms, and I fell in love with Dance Moms, and I was like, maybe I'm just meant to be a dancer, so I should just take off some time and then go work intently training on my dancing because I can do this now, basically. I didn't believe that I could do it, but I ended up leaving school. I dropped out of school, and it took me maybe a month before I left Brockville. I ended up like registering for the hairdressing program and going through all these different thoughts of like, maybe I'm gonna go return to hairdressing because that's what I did before I went into college. I was training as a hairdresser while I was in high school. And so I did, like, I registered for the hairdressing program. I didn't end up taking it. And then like 2 weeks later, I ended up moving to Toronto and I ended up getting my first agent. I ended up starting to work in film and TV and do background work. And I also was getting booked for my first musical theater auditions for like giant Broadway roles. And I realized I can't go to these auditions. And I was like, I am not even comfortable enough to go perform in class. It freaks me out. So I'm like, I can't go to an audition for a Broadway show. So I'm like, at that point in time, I was like, if I'm going to be auditioning and I'm going to be working in film and I'm going to be doing this anyways, I might as well just go back to school. But I just couldn't make that decision because school was such a terrible experience and so, brought me like so much mental anguish, and there was just so much bad stuff resonating around it. And I was like, I can't go back and be like the year behind everybody that I was going to graduate with and all of this mess. And so I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it anyways. I promised myself that I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow through. I'm going to finish this and graduate college. The main thing that I just kept thinking was, if I ever have a kid one day, I don't want them to be able to look back and be like, but you didn't graduate college. Because if I ever have a kid, they're going to go and they're going to graduate. So, no, I don't actually care if my kids go to college even, but if I even have kids, we'll see. But yeah, that was why I graduated college. I ended up moving back home to Alberta, saved up a bunch of money, trained, even just like by myself in my living room every single day. And I ended up going back to school that next year, despite having all of my grad class be the year ahead of me. I joined a brand new year. I was the new boy. They let me audition. I traveled down to Brockville early just so that I could audition to be a part of the show that was going to be going on when I entered into my new year, and I actually ended up getting a role. So I ended up playing Pat Denning in 42nd Street, and that my new year welcomed me in with open arms. It ended up being even better than my first time around, and I'd grown so much more, and I built all of this extra confidence. I still panicked, and I still had so much stage fright, and I was a mess for all of that program. But like, I just kept telling myself, you could do this, you can fight through this, you can overcome this, no matter how hard this feels right now, you are going to triumph over this, and one day you're going to look back and say you did it. And I did. And I am so proud to be able to say that not only did I finish college, but I left and went through all of these struggles, and I still went back and I still finished it. And I not only finished it, but I got to go to the Theatre Ontario showcase. I got to have my first lead role, like huge lead role in third year. I got to have another lead role following that. I ended up graduating college with like all of these amazing new friends that I met in my new year, and my best friend in the entire world to this day is from that new year. And we would not have been able to become best friends if that didn't happen and things didn't play out that way. But most of all, I am just so proud of myself for actually sticking it out and going through all of that and graduating. And if any of you guys are thinking about dropping out of college or thinking about going back to college, just know you can always go back. If you ever decide to drop out, just know that whatever reasons that you're dropping out for, those things can be overcome. And if you feel like your mental health is suffering right now because you're at school, then maybe you do need to leave school for a year. It's okay to put your mental health first. It's okay to take care of yourself and put yourself first, because you are the only one that is going to matter in your life in the end. Like, you need to take care of you, and no diploma is going to be any more important than your mental health. So take a year off if you need to. You can always go back, and I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. If I can do it, trust me, you can do it. Anyways, that is about it for this video. Thank you guys that tuned in to watch live with me and to share your support. And as always, I just wanted to remind you guys to be weird, be wild, and stay sparkly. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm enjoying telling all these stories about my days in theater school and my acting life and stuff like that. Just a bunch of epic fails mostly. But yeah, so if you like these kind of videos, I'm going to be posting more of that. You could press the red subscribe button and join the Sparkly family. Hit that little bell notification so that you never miss a video. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you next time. So make sure to be weird, be wild, and stay sparkly. Bye, guys.